This particular iPhone had a significant fault. Outwardly, it appeared to be in truly excellent condition. There were absolutely no visible cracks, no dents, nothing at all that would immediately raise any red flags or cause concern. But despite all that, the GSM network wasn't working, Wi-Fi was completely dead, and Bluetooth wasn't functioning either. And this is exactly the kind of case that very often misleads people, because if the phone looks perfectly fine, we naturally assume that nothing serious has occurred. In this video, I'll show you what truly caused this malfunction and why such damage isn't visible from the outside, so please join me. Hello, I'm Paweł from the Tony Gruszka service. I handle the repair of Apple devices, primarily focusing on the more challenging cases. Those instances where the actual underlying problem isn't immediately obvious. And this iPhone, which we're featuring in today's episode, serves as a very good example. That's why the phone's external appearance very often tells us little about its actual internal condition. A client brought in a phone after it had fallen, checked it from the outside, and concluded that nothing serious had happened to it. The real problem only became apparent after the phone was switched on. There was no signal, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, meaning all of the phone's essential connectivity functions stopped working simultaneously. At this stage, many people are thinking of a software problem, or they expect a simple fix will suffice. And here in the settings, we clearly see there are no Wi-Fi MAC addresses and no modem firmware. Just because the phone's screen isn't cracked doesn't mean everything inside is fine. An iPhone's casing can absorb a fall very well. During impact, stresses form, which focus exactly where there are delicate connections. Here we have the motherboard. When it falls, our casing, even if imperceptibly, flexes just a little. And unfortunately, all the impacts, all the stresses are then transferred directly onto our main board. And this is a crucial point that you absolutely must remember. The absence of external damage does not mean there is no internal damage. With symptoms like this, it's impossible to make any accurate guesses. Replacing random parts makes absolutely no sense, because the actual problem could be lying somewhere else entirely. But from our experience, we already know that if there's no email, Macs, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, the problem is 99% on the motherboard. Therefore, the only truly sensible and effective course of action was to completely dismantle the phone and then proceed with a very thorough and detailed diagnostic assessment. In this specific situation, it was also absolutely necessary to desolder the main circuit board to determine exactly what had actually transpired. What does it mean to desolder a board? From the iPhone X model onwards, the main logic boards are actually made up of two distinct sections that have been permanently soldered to each other. The upper half is the logic, which means the processor and all other managing circuits. The lower half of the board is the signal board, also known as RF, and that's where we find the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GSM, GPS modules, and so on. Now, let's get to the crux of our problem. Here, we can clearly see these silver circles. These are what we call the soldering pads. And you can also see some brown damage right next to them, each marked with 3 dots. These are simply tone signal pads. Some are for connectivity, for communication between our main processor and the GSM processor, for the Bluetooth module and for the Wi-Fi module. And unfortunately, in this particular instance, we can see that a significant number of these connections are damaged. In this very case, approximately 20 pads were torn off. Not all of these are signal pads. Some of them are actually ground pads. In this lower section, these are typically ground pads, while in the upper section, closer to the integrated circuits, they are signal pads. And this, unfortunately, is a problem that we cannot verify without physically opening the phone and desoldering the main board. Or only after disassembly can we be 100% sure that this is a purely mechanical problem. Such damage doesn't just appear by itself. It's the result of stresses from a fall. Sometimes symptoms appear immediately, sometimes only after a while, and then it looks like the phone just broke itself. And many clients don't even connect the fact that the phone dropped, let's say, a month ago, and the network suddenly stopped working, or Wi-Fi or GPS or anything else. I'll show you now more or less how it looks. A close-up of this main board. Here is the board. This is the main board of the iPhone 13. And this is how it looks when it's fully disassembled and laid out. You can clearly see that all these connections are incredibly tiny. Indeed, all of these are meticulously crafted under a microscope, because quite simply, with the naked eye, we are not even capable of properly inspecting them. And at this point, this naturally refers to all these particular sections right here. You have solder connecting these parts together. This is how it's all soldered into place, and the moment your phone happens to fall, all of these connections are put under strain. The main circuit board is particularly susceptible to damage from sudden forceful movements. It's bent, as you can see, it gently moves, and the advantage is that the solder will hold and the connection will last. But the pads, as you just saw, unfortunately cannot withstand this tension and simply...
They're cutting off.
So let's now proceed directly to the actual repair process. The repair of this particular type of damage involves carefully restoring all of the broken connections. First, we absolutely must meticulously prepare the specific damaged areas. This is achieved by carefully grinding away a small piece of the existing solder mask. After that, we then apply fresh solder, which in this particular instance comes in the form of tiny spherical balls. We carefully solder these components into place, utilizing a hot air station, directly onto the pre-prepared contact pads. After that, we meticulously clean the entire area, and then we proceed to apply
Soldering flux.
We provide you with ready pads onto the designated pre-prepared location. We then proceed to solder it securely with a soldering iron. So a corner separatelnosti. Then we apply solder mask to our newly repaired pads. Once prepared like this, to the areas that are covered by the solder mask, we can then proceed exposed to ultraviolet, so it has cured. Next, we scrape off the excess solder mask from our newly prepared pads to create space for new solder balls. This will allow us to connect our main board, the lower part with the upper part. After that, we can proceed with testing to determine if this repair has been successful and achieved the desired positive outcome. Any such mistake, a single error at this critical stage, could significantly worsen our overall situation. That is precisely why repairs of this nature are never carried out hastily or without a comprehensive and precise diagnosis. Now, however, all that remains for us is the sheer, unadulterated pleasure of the task. We are now carefully applying fresh, new solder onto the lower half of the circuit board, utilizing a specially designed stencil. We must ensure that every single tin pad is completely and precisely filled, so that there are absolutely no gaps or imperfections. Next, using a hot air soldering station, we will carefully and gradually wood the entire lower half of the component where our solder paste has been meticulously applied. The objective is to allow the paste to melt and reflow, forming perfectly spherical, beautiful and shiny solder balls. This crucial step ensures that we can then accurately and securely place the upper half of the circuit board directly onto these newly formed solder connections. And with the help of the bottom heater, on which the lower half is already positioned, they could calmly solder together. Now I've added a little bit of new flux onto the previously placed solder balls so that they can properly connect to help our tin bond with the upper half. Now we're placing the top piece. We are stabilizing it. We are carefully aligning it so that the bottom and the top halves are perfectly even with each other.
We are waiting.
And in just a moment, we'll do some tests. Once the phone has been fully reassembled, it's time for the test. We need to go into the settings and check if our network is now visible.
specifically the MAC addresses, and if our modem firmware has graciously returned.
As you can see, the Wi-Fi MAC address is clearly visible. The Bluetooth address is also visible, and the modem firmware is likewise displayed. Now we will proceed. We'll connect to the network and try to get connected. As is clearly visible to everyone, the Wi-Fi and GSM works. This case shows that a fall without cracks doesn't mean the phone is fully functional. If after a drop connectivity stops working, very often this is a motherboard problem, and without looking inside it's impossible to confirm. If you're interested in real-life cases from Apple service, consider subscribing. On my channel, I'll be showing you the entire process, from the initial diagnosis right through to the final result. See you.